Hi, this is Adam Kunzmiller with BGG TV at Gen Con 2015, and I'm joined by Anton Torres with Fantasy Flight Games, and we're here to talk about Warhammer Quest, the adventure card game. So tell me about this. You said you just announced it, right?
We did. So every year, Christian Peterson, the CEO, will get up for an hour and a half, and talk about where we've been, where we're going, and then often has announcements, and there were quite a number. This is one that we have just revealed today that we've been working on, that is a cooperative adventure card game. So what the heck is that? It is for 1 to 4 players, so you can play solo. You will progress as one of 4 characters. I guess, is that? Aha!
Like that.
So as one of four characters, we've got a Dwarven Ironbreaker, an Elven Waywatcher, a Warrior Priest, and a Bright Wizard. Each character has a number of action cards. There are 4 different actions that a character can take.
Okay.
These cards are face up in front of you, and it is working together as a group of adventurers and deciding how individually you are going to coordinate your actions to prevail against whatever the evilness is. There are multiple quests. There's a 5-part campaign in the box, and each campaign has a progress meter and an event triggers. So as you move round by round, the different colors will trigger a different step in the story.
Okay.
And the idea is make an accessible, cooperative game that has some interesting elements that might be familiar to players who like customizable card games where there's sort of synergies or these choices of interactions, but removes anything related to deck building. This is really
So there's absolutely 0 deck building.
there's no deck building whatsoever. This is about working together. So I'm going to pull, just as an example, here 4 different cards, and we'll compare them perhaps with that of another character. So right up on top?
Yeah.
Does that work? So let's see. Conveniently, they're nearly in the same order. We have 4 different. We have Explore is an action. So each character has an Explore action that they can take. Explore, Rest, Attack, and Aid. Explore is how you progress through location cards, and there's a deck of location cards. For example, there are winding tunnels, and each location will spawn a number of face-up creatures into the center, into the shadows. They are not engaged. They're kind of waiting to rush out. And then a number of face-down creatures for which you have no information. Right? They will eventually come out and attack you. And then sometimes there are triggers. There are things that location...
Events, that kind of thing.
Events, something that will happen at the end of each round for that location. In this case, at the end of the location phase, the party leader may discard progress from this location if he does not spawn an enemy face down. So these are winding tunnels. So unless you're willing to explore these winding tunnels, what you're going to do is you're going to spawn more and more creatures that are going to rush out and attack. It's kind of very, very simplified, abstracted dungeon delve, but it is all about coordinating together. So what the heck are these actions? Explore will allow you to roll dice to generate success symbols, which are this
cross axes
right?
kind of thing.
That's the Warhammer, the classic Warhammer of Warhammer fantasy, the old world. And each success will put a progress marker on the location. When you have acquired that number, the appropriate number of location tokens, you have moved forward. Okay, but then there are other actions, other events essentially that will take place. So the Bright Wizard will explore and roll 1 die, and then they will also draw and resolve a single dungeon card. There are dungeon cards and there are gear cards. Dungeon cards are either events or they are items that you find inside the sprawling subterranean tunnels. So in this case, this would be an item, a healing salve that you might hang on to and use later. In other cases, there are events. So here's the Avarice of Slanesh, and there's some flavor text, and then what actually occurs. So again, very, very simplified mechanics, but it will take you through each of these. So,
Sure.
what is cool about these actions is the Bright Wizard explores for 1 die, they'll draw and resolve a dungeon card, and then they can suffer damage in order to claim success tokens. In the Warhammer Fantasy world, the wizards are really kind of unstable, and the Bright Wizards, they tend to sort of burn themselves up as they use their abilities. Even you see fire pouring out of this character's eyes. So they'll suffer damage in order to get a benefit, and that's a choice. Here we have the elf, the Way Watcher, and they roll 2 dice, so they're better at sort of wandering about and discovering what is going on in your environment. They will draw and resolve a dungeon card, but then they also can exhaust characters. So essentially like hiding to cause the enemy cards to be delayed slightly, sort of control the enemy cards that are in play a bit. And every of these primary actions is different. So these 4 different characters, the Dwarf, the Bright Wizard, the Elven Archer, and the Warrior Priest, have just enough flavor and supported by mechanics to give you a sense of Warhammer's old world and a really specific character archetype that you need to in which you need to specialize. You need to kind of figure out, how does this work well, and how do we work together?
Right. How do I use my optional ability to maximize what we can do for the turn, that kind of stuff.
Right, and if I'm the Bright Wizard, I'm with a Priest, that's going to make for a very different game than if you were the Dwarven Ironbreaker and I was the Bright Wizard, or if we had 3 or 4 players. Every player would, on their turn, they choose one of their available actions and they'll just exhaust it. They'll execute those steps in order, and then it goes to the next player. On your next action, you cannot take that same action twice, and this does not reset round by round.
Oh, okay. It sounds like it moves at a pretty good clip too. Not
it does.
Like super long turns at all.
Not at all.
Like that.
This is Brian. Brian and I played the first quest here. I think the whole end to end was about 40 minutes.
Oh, wow.
We had 2 characters, so it's a much faster game.
Sure.
And we were also learning the game. I was preparing for the show. But what was really cool is these interactions, they start to sort of reveal themselves over time. He was the Dwarven Ironbreaker, and I was the Way Watcher, so I had ranged attacks.
Right.
And so there were times where I could take an attack and actually attack the monsters, the creatures with which he was engaged, that were across the table, across the room, or across the dungeon hall.
So you start to, as you play, you start to identify combos that are really effective, and you start using those more often. And,
absolutely.
You become more of a well-oiled machine as you go.
You do, and then what gets very fun, then you will find objects in the dungeon, then items that you may hang on to, but over time, and quest to quest, you have the opportunity to then develop your character. So there are special artifacts. Each character has 3 different artifacts that may appear. Again, only if you are successful, and then only if you explore through the dungeons. There are these unique items that will just sort of really enrich what your character's all about and how they play. Beyond that, let's see, there are upgraded action cards.
Oh, okay.
So much like anyone who has role-played or play any kind of adventure game, at least for me, one thing that makes adventure games so much fun is that sense of narrative and the sense of progression.
Right.
So
of the characters over time.
The character develops very truly, and this, I guess you could sit and play through all 5 quests in a sitting, but I wouldn't want to. I'd want to sort of, you go once a week or once, you go over time. Your upgraded cards are also actions, but in this case, these are the Ironbreaker. They're always more effective, and they tend to have some other special ability. And you don't acquire them all. It's all about which is
picking the one for the,
yeah,
where your character's developing, that kind of thing.
Right, do I want to be more of a support character? Do I want to be more of the tank and sort of, do I want to heal, be very resilient? Then I might choose the rest action, which is all about healing. The aid action is where you're actually giving your compatriots success tokens, and a success token is a free, amounts essentially a free Warhammer, a free success result. So in an attack, if that success token had been committed to your attack action, it would just do more damage.
Now, if we play through Quest 1 together, and through that I get, Shield Wall for my character.
Yep.
Would we then start Quest 2 with me having Shield Wall?
Yes.
Great. And so are these quests intended to always be played in order?
So in the box, we have essentially 2 scenarios. The first is a 5-part quest that is all thematically linked. On the back of each of these progress cards is the setup.
Okay.
So from the pool of available encounter cards and the items that you may find, and then this deep deck of creatures that are all divided by a level, either level 1, 2, or 3, which is the difficulty, and then thematically different types. There are all different
abilities and
different types. Like there's giant spiders and spider-like things. There's some undead creatures and there are goblins. A whole bunch of different goblin characters. So you review the back. The quest setup will tell you what sets of enemies go into the deck, how many of each encounter card. Kind of you shuffle and set that all up. You arrive as this novice adventurer with some basic abilities, and then you dive right in. And you said it moves at a fast clip, and it does. You're not sitting around, but you are talking to each other.
Right.
Which for a co-op game, I really like. I mean, I think last time we had another co-op game here, we were showing XCOM, or previously we showed XCOM.
Right.
And it's a game where you have to specialize in your...
You're so focused on what you're doing, right.
Right. In this, you have a great deal of ownership in your character, and yet it's a light card game that gives you that sense of ownership and sort of agency. It's like I am the Bright Wizard, and so I get to choose what I'm going to do. No one can optimally play, because at the end, what actions I take are going to affect what's available, and over time, I need to manage my own resources. It's just very self-contained.
Sure.
If I may, I'm going to show you something else here. As I looked at the attack cards, I remember something else that is cool. These are one of the creatures. This is a level 1 Skaven clan rat. So just a grunt, right? Very simple creature. When it attacks, it does 1 point of damage to my character, and it only takes a point of damage to defeat the Skaven. And there's a little 1 in a gold.
That's the reward?
No, that's actually a shield.
Oh,
so we'll soak 1 point of damage.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to do 2 or more in one go. What is cool about the creatures in this game is the action bar. So the game progresses in quick phases. First, it's the action phase, or players one at a time will take an action.
Figure out which one they're going to do.
Right, and one at a time you actually commit, you execute those actions, the next player goes. After that, then we will progress to the creatures, right? And any of the creatures here then will activate until everything that is on the table has activated.
Okay.
Sometimes you can opt to engage with one of these enemies. Other times they will come and actually advance. So this bar, it's essentially a set of instructions. So this enemy will advance, and then it will inflict. And inflict is cause damage.
Okay.
So if it is my turn to activate an enemy, and I choose the clan rat, first thing it will do is it will advance to me, and then will cause 1 point of damage. And now I am engaged, right? And now this is in front of me.
Right.
And there's a penalty. Anytime I roll dice from that point forward, I'm going to have to add enemy dice equal to the number of enemies with which I'm engaged. And that symbol will cause them to attack me again.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right. This is a special Nemesis effect, so there are some unique enemies that then come out over the course of a campaign, and when you're engaged with them, that Nemesis icon will trigger their special ability. And so you're trying to kind of control what enemies each character is engaged with. Sometimes the dwarf will they're pretty much the tank. Some other interesting effects though here, just randomly a giant spider will inflict. So let's say it's your turn.
It's going to web me and then run away. What a jerk.
It is here. It does not advance.
Oh, that's right.
So it doesn't even engage with anyone. You're the active player, though, and so you read across. First, it will inflict. It will cause damage.
Because I'm the active player.
You're the active player. Then it will ensnare you, and it will retreat. Okay? And when it ensnares, if it's in the shadows, You exhaust an action. So this is the shadows, and this would be engaged.
Engaged, got it.
Exhausting an action means it slows you down. So you're ensnared, you will lose one of your actions until you can reset. So it slows you down. Retreat means it'll go back to the shadows.
So even if you had some ability to draw it to you, it's going to run back into the shadows.
Yeah, when it activates, it's going to go back.
Gotcha.
And so here there's an Orc Boy. The Orc Boy, on it when it activates, doesn't even inflict. It doesn't cause damage at all. It will advance and engage.
So that you have those, right?
So you have these, and so then as you're rolling the dice, then every time that
so
triggers,
it inflicts by way of the dice that you roll because it's engaged the player.
Because it has engaged the player.
Right.
And there's a 3 creature max, right? So it doesn't spiral out. But it's a heck of a lot of fun. And Brian and I, we played, and by the end of it, there were I was leaping up. There were moments. There were those moments, right?
Yeah,
those moments in the
definitely.
story where people do heroic things, and we're rolling dice and we're cheering.
Yeah.
There's also an exploding success, which is the critical, and that's that symbol. And that's both the success, and then you re-roll a new die.
Nice.
So, simple mechanics, narrative elements, $40. It's coming out later this year. Steeped in the old world of Warhammer 40,000 of Games Workshop's sort of classic old world fantasy setting. It's Warhammer Quest, the adventure card game.
All right. Well, thank you, Anton.
Yeah, you got it.